I want to work for a company that has that clear purpose, that has that mission that we can attach to, and has great people as well, because everyone's going to want to work with those organizations. So that's where you want to be. So there's another topic I wanted to have a quick chat about. John made a comment, or Tony, it might have been you, that the average tenure now of a salesperson is around 15 months, which is scary. It's scary for the salesperson, but also scary for businesses that are having that level of turnover. But let's focus on the salesperson for a moment. How do salespeople, or how should salespeople be approaching that job search aspect of it? So honing in on the right organization, the right business that would be a good fit for their skills, where they can build a career, where they can have 3 or 4 or 5 successful years, if not longer, rather than have this kind of quick tenure time and time again. I'm just interested because we're seeing this all the time, this constant turnover, but that wasn't always the case. What can you do as an individual salesperson to buck that trend a little bit?
Well, the first thing in my mind is we need to be proactive, not reactive. So if you're just responding to job ads, then you're in that sort of red ocean zone that makes it incredibly tough.
Yeah.
So the thing for me is go and target an industry or an organisation that you admire.
Okay.
So the first thing to look for, I think, is really good product market fit. So, you don't want to be someone who's out there trying to resurrect the dead, in your sort of value proposition. You want to have good intrinsic product market fit in what you're doing.
Okay.
And then to me, the next thing is what's the culture of the organisation like, and what are the quality of the people that you'd be working with?
Yeah.
And then once you get to engage, you want to really explore, what would your patch be? Because I personally, we've talked about SAP in the past, which is a great software company. I worked for SAP back in '99 myself.
Yep.
And if you don't have a viable patch, it's very hard to be successful.
Absolutely.
So that's probably the 3 key things for me.
Okay. John?
Look, the one thing I think we all need to keep in mind, everything you've just said is absolutely true, but in my mind, we need to create our own jobs. If you get that mentality, rather than I'm going to go and look what jobs are available and then assess them and go and approach the ones that I think are the ones that will be my cultural fit, I think you need to do that if those jobs are available. But it's even, as salespeople, we have an opportunity to go and sell ourselves and create the job. So if we study the companies we'd like to join, and they've got the right culture for us, and everything else we need, the products and the target markets and so on that really match what we're looking for, target those companies, and then identify where they might have needs. They need to create a job. Right? And companies are creating jobs all the time. Why do they create jobs? Because there's a need, and people identify those needs, the job gets created, and then they go and search for somebody. I've seen people sit there saying they should put a role in a company to do this. And then after, and they're working in the same company, if they did that, I'd be interested. Next minute they find they did create that role and they put somebody else in, they didn't even know about it. Take action on creating the role for yourself.
It's something you both have talked about there briefly in terms of the culture of the organisation. We hear that expression, hire for culture, train for skills. We hear that a lot, and that comes from the perspective of the vendor of the business. But I think we can spin that on its head and say apply for roles or approach organisations where you think there's a strong cultural fit, even if you don't have exactly the right skill set. Because a lot of the time we can train people to do the job or the specific activity, but actually the bigger issue is we're going to be spending 80% of our time with these people. What level of engagement, what's the culture inside the business, what's their philosophy when it comes to the impact they're trying to have in their market? And that might sound a bit wishy-washy, but it actually isn't, because so much of the work that my business is doing these days is talking to end customers about how they made their buying decision and what influenced their buying decision. And so much of what we're hearing is, at a certain point, product and price get put to one side, and people and purpose start to really motivate their decision-making process, particularly if the deal values are larger or the risk is higher. So if product and price are being put to one side and people and purpose are being put into sharp relief, then they're the companies I want to work for. I want to work for a company that has that clear purpose, that has that mission that we can attach to, and has great people as well, because everyone's going to want to work with those organizations. So that's where you want to be.
I agree. Look, Tony, I've seen you work with organisations that are brilliant at that sort of thing, and I've seen other organisations that aren't. We talked earlier about the churn, the fact that the average job tenure of a B2B salesperson is 15 months.
Yeah.
Companies are actually driving that churn, a lot of companies. And
They
I
are.
think it's very unhealthy, and you call it totally unethical and
Yeah.
immoral. But the fact is, they're not companies I would ever want to work for.
No, I really agree, and I think that's spot on. And can you just go back to what you said? I really believe that selling should be about making a positive difference in the life of your customer, both professionally and personally. And that's right. If you can find a company that's committed to making a difference in their markets
Yeah.
for the people that they serve, then straight away they're driving at the right things.
And you both know Coca Sexton from the LinkedIn days. I remember he did something quite recently which really impressed me, which was when he started looking for his next role, he actually was very, very structured about it and put a process in place that said, all right, what's the compensation, what's the market opportunity, what's the culture of the business, what would be my commute to that business, all of these other attributes. And he looked at that and kind of mapped it, and then started to reach out to organizations to have those conversations. And I thought that was wonderful, because actually that's taking the power back as a prospective employee of these organizations and saying, look, yes, you could give me a role, but so could lots of other organizations. I feel that I bring some value, so let me map you, or let me look through the lens of all of these things to see if you're a good fit for me.
And I love that model. I think he did a great job there, and I've seen other people do it too. Jill Conrad has talked a lot about this. When people are looking for work, just don't be a person out there finding the next job role advertised and then applying. That's a dog's breakfast in there. You don't want to be there.
It's true, it's very provocative, but I've gone to interviews in the past and I've asked the potential hiring manager that's talking to me, I've said to them, how many salespeople inside the organisation made their number last quarter and last year, and what's the organisation doing to really lift performance, right? And often you get a deer in the headlights look, right? Now you've got to be careful asking that question, because you don't want to annoy the person, but the truth is, if a low percentage of people are succeeding and they're not committing to lifting performance in the organisation,
why would you put your career there? Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah.
And that reminded me of something that I think is absolutely vital, and you're really touching on it there. We as salespeople, if we're really good, are good at doing discovery, really getting to understand the current situation through the conversation, and then taking the customer through a thinking journey to a new way of thinking.
Yeah.
That's what we do in an interview. An interview is not for them to ask us questions.
Yeah.
The interview is for us to really drill down and do a proper discovery. And I'll tell you, when that happens, the hiring person sits back and this guy is good. This girl is good.
So you could almost say that as a salesperson, your most important sales job is the one that you do before you actually start your first job or your next job, which is the work you do to decide who you want to work with and where
targeting.
You want to,
It's all the standard sales stuff.
Absolutely.
Targeting, research,
Discovery, great questions.
great questions, and going through that process. And if they want to ask you some questions, great, terrific. But turn those very quickly around to questions to them.
And the thing to me is to get away from trying to sell yourself in the interview. I mean, we'll need to sell ourselves, but get away from that being the focus to instead focusing on, are we a good fit for each other? And even say that, look, I don't know whether I'm the right person for you or not. You seem like you could be the right organisation for me. Can we explore whether this is really a good fit or not?
Yep.
I've done my homework, but I've got a few questions if that's okay. And ask me whatever you want, but I've got some questions too.
It needs to be a win-win. And any company worth their salt are looking for those win-wins. We as the candidate needs to go in thinking this has got to be a win-win. Let's make sure that it is, and we're not going to be hired by an organisation that's going to treat us badly, or all the issues you talked about before. Do it together on a win-win basis, or walk away if it can't happen.
So isn't it interesting? We talked a little bit before about, when you're in a sales career, you need to take ownership and responsibility of continuing to learn, to continuing to focus on yourself. But what we're saying is, when you're embarking on a new role, you've got to take ownership of doing the discovery. So, it's starting to feel like there's a trend, which is you've got to own this stuff yourself. You've got to be accountable yourself at the start, through your sales career, at every step of the journey. That doesn't mean you don't reach out and use the resources around you. It doesn't mean you don't build a really good network. But ultimately, the buck has to stop with us. We can't push the responsibility onto someone else for our career development, for where our new job should be. We've got to step up and, as you say, maybe create the role ourselves, or certainly do a lot more due diligence than most people do to determine if it's a good fit for us or not.
It's great advice.
Excellent.